One. What's up, designers? What's really, really good? We are live. First, want to ask, where are you guys watching from? Is it morning? Is it evening? What time in the world is it for you? Okay, let's just check. Okay, I think we're coming on Instagram as well. So just need to check that. Let me know in the chat where you're tuning in from. Always fascinated to know where in the world. So let me give you that prompt. I'll also bring you up on screen and say hi if we have time. But without further ado, let's get the show started. All right, guys. So, welcome to Rectangles Designs group chat. This is where I bring on a designer and we take one simple topic and we go deep. We'll talk about their stories, their struggles, and more importantly, their solutions. So, we as a group chat can learn from it. And being a live group chat, of course, you can ask us anything. So, feel free to spam your chat in the question. Today, we're going to be talking about how introverts thrive in tech. So, pretending to be an extrovert if you're an introvert is exhausting, especially when you're doing it all day at work. And this happens to quite a lot of us, right? Quite ambitious people in tech, especially, right? They do great work, they keep their heads down, and they wait to get noticed. If you are one of them, then I'm sure that kind of hurt a little bit, or at least you're like, oh, that's true. Then someone louder walks off with the credit, the promotion, and the executive presence gold star. So that's why we're getting to how quiet achievers can get promoted, get more recognition, become unfireable without pretending to be an extrovert. And of course, all of your questions. Our guest today is the author and founder of The Quiet Achiever. He spent 20 years designing and leading teams in tech. I'll give our guest a proper introduction in a minute. But if you're done wearing your mask at work, pull up a chair, take notes. This is that conversation. And want to play that second intro video to officially say we are about to get into this. So I don't see any folks coming in, probably because it's like different timing from usual lives. But please just drop a hey if you're watching. Oh god, it's actually at the right time, like that I'm actually drinking coffee. Usually I'll be just sipping on water because it's quite late for me, but feels good to be on air and to drink some coffee. Someone came in. Yay. Wait. Okay, we already have a question, but this one we will address, but really great question here. Okay. So before we get started, just need to do some housekeeping here. For this live stream, we partnered with Optimal. Optimal is expanding their AI toolkit with optimal intelligence, helping designers spend less time reviewing data and more time acting on the insights that matter. I think a few reasons why you'll love it. You can like the AI writing assistants help you write cleaner, stronger survey questions. You get to go beyond written responses, prompt participants to speak aloud with their AI moderator. You can automatically follow up when answers are too brief or kind of off track. Offers richer insights backed by evidence. Gather those recordings, automate your transcripts, give you insights and highlight reels, giving you clear citations and proof for it, so actual evidence based on that research. You can also ask better questions faster, use AI chat to explore those findings, uncover the patterns, and dig deeper instantly. Instead of just rummaging through your research, you can actually just ask it questions. And this is cool because I think it removes much of that execution layer while also keeping you control of your research. So I'll be leaving the QR code in the top right. So you can try Optimal completely for free. and just play around with the tool for your own research. Again, scan that QR code if you're so inclined, and I'll leave it in the top throughout the stream if you're interested in optimal intelligence and how you can use it for your own research. So, today, our guest is Tim Yao. Um, he's the chief introvert of the Quiet Achiever. He is a career coach who helps quiet achievers have impact at work without pretending to be an extrovert. Tim spent 20 years as a designer and was the first design leader at a three three times 700 million fintech startup, Finder, OFX, and Prosper, where he hired, established, and scaled design teams from scratch. Best known for saying complex things simply. He's also a keynote speaker, a book binder, and published his book, The Quiet Achiever, working remotely from Adelaide. Oh, I thought you were based somewhere in Sydney, Tim. Anyway, next to the fluffiest old English sheepdog ever. Okay, cool. So Tim, I want to get you out here, dude, and speak to you. So you are based in Adelaide. How you doing, dude?
Good yourself. Thank you so much for having me.
Yeah, absolutely. So Adelaide, fluffiest old English sheepdog ever. Tell me about the dog.
Not much to tell. She's an old English sheepdog, and she's the fluffiest everyone ever. I've been starting to watch a lot of old English sheepdog videos on Instagram, and now I'm starting to realize there's so many around the world. It's awesome.
Amazing, dude. Amazing, dude. Okay, well, instead of just diving straight in the question, let's find out more about you for the folks that don't know you, and then we can. I want to also start off with some icebreakers, but first, who's Tim, and what does the audience need to know about you to sort of set some context for this conversation that we're about to have?
Sure. So my name is Tim, and I started my career. I was originally from Singapore. And back in the day, this was probably 20 plus years ago. I'm a designer. When I started out, user experience wasn't even a term that wasn't even invented yet. We were doing stuff like user research, they were calling it usability engineering. It had many different names. But that's where I started my career. I have a computer science degree. I really enjoyed what I did. But out of everything that I did, the part that I enjoyed the most and wanted to do for the rest of my career was design, was user experience, trying to figure out how to design the right thing. And from there, I then moved to Australia, first to Sydney, and then now I'm based here in Adelaide, and it's where I made my career. And right now, where I'm focused on is helping other designers, engineers, product managers, people who work in tech to help them navigate their career. Because with so many changes that happened to our industry in tech in just the last 2 or 3 years, it feels like the ground is shifting below our feet. And there are a lot of people who are facing a lot of fear and a lot of anxiety around their career. They're asking questions whether their skills are still relevant anymore. Should they go find a different job, have a different career? It's a very interesting time to be in tech. And in a lot of the conversations I have, there's been a lot of fear and uncertainty. But at the same time, I also have a lot of very positive conversations with people about how to actually navigate and use this time of great change to their advantage. So, in a nutshell, that's what I do.
Nice, nice. Okay, perfect. Let me throw you some curveballs, if I may. You probably weren't expecting this, but I have just a list of icebreaker questions, and just for a bit of fun. This is
Yeah,
this
go
is
for it.
super, super chill. Okay, um, Teams or Slack?
Oh, definitely Slack.
Okay, cool. What's your favorite item on your desk?
It has to be today my new pair of reading glasses. They're
Oh
awesome.
yeah, oh yeah, nice, nice. I love the black frame.
If I
Um,
can have two items, it's got
sure.
to be Uniball Siglo, probably the best pen in the world.
Okay, you heard it here first. Nice. Is
Favorite
it a
pen.
good writing experience? Like very smooth?
The best.
Okay. Okay. Um, quickly, I'm sorry I'm looking at my phone, but okay. I thought there was some emergency. Emergency averted. Okay. If you could instantly master any musical instrument, which one would you choose?
I used to play the drums, but I always wish I could sing or play the guitar.
Yes. Okay. You used to play the drums. I always wish I could sing or play like the saxophone. I like my brass sounding instruments. I think so. Okay. One more. Let's reveal. Okay. What's your favorite way to reward yourself after achieving a major goal or milestone?
Time off,
Mm,
doing something that I don't usually allow myself to do. And it's not what you think, but more so a walk in the park, going somewhere that's peaceful, um, somewhere that's a lot quieter. I probably don't spend enough time outdoors. But yeah, that's something that I would do.
Is Adelaide quite outdoors?
Oh, yeah. So, what you may not know is I used to live on a farm. So, I
Oh.
used to, for the last 3 years, we lived on a farm, which was great because we had so much space. But earlier this year, we actually moved back to the city.
Mhm.
And since then, we haven't had much time outdoors.
Okay.
So, if I do have to reward myself these days, it's really just to get out in nature again.
Okay. Okay. All right. Last sort of icebreaker question, which is um ooh, there's quite a few interesting ones, but okay. Let's just what's the most challenging aspect of being an entrepreneur or your own boss or or a founder? What's the most challenging aspect?
Learning how to make money.
Okay, yeah.
Well, I would say that I I started my career doing the things that I enjoy, making things. And my heart, I think I'm a maker. Um, the art of making, even when I'm cooking, I love working in my hands. What I've learned since running my own business is that learning how to sell the thing is such a critical skill as well.
Mm,
And I think what I've learned and what I think a lot of people have learned is that even with AI, you can actually use AI to actually build out a lot of the skills that you personally don't have. Maybe you're a designer who cannot code. Maybe you are a designer that can't do a certain thing. You could always use AI to help you with those things. But one of those things that I found that still can't really be done yet, and maybe it's a yet thing, maybe one day it will, is trying to figure out how to actually sell your business to get people to buy the thing that you're actually making. I think it's a very humbling moment when people who are in their own function and for a long time probably thought everybody else is not doing as much heavy lifting as you are. All of a sudden, if you're an entrepreneur, and especially if you're a person who's working on your own, a solopreneur, and you all of a sudden have to do all these other things all by yourself. You have no other peer to do them for you, no one in marketing, no one in product, no one in engineering. It's just you. I found that since I started doing this, I have so much more respect for the peers that I used to work with in different disciplines.
yeah, yeah, likewise. Yeah, I have endless respect for sales and marketing now because it's just not easy coming from a different function like design and being like, because yeah, I never used to be like, oh yeah, marketing team. I'm just like, oh, these guys are not annoying. Like they just come with like ridiculous requirements, and then now I'm like, oh, I get it. The tight timelines and all this stuff, right? So okay, well, let's dive into our question. That's enough warm up and ice breaking. Today, we're talking about how introverts thrive in tech. And I think the first thing I want to chat about is sort of this recognition piece, which I touched on earlier, where because you're an introvert, you might not be the one that's the loudest and the most visible in an organization or even on your team. So like, what are some things you sort of help people think through, especially introverts? How do they get more recognition without just pretending to be an extrovert?
So let's set some context first.
Sure.
I believe that even today, we live in a world where the extrovert ideal is desired. Whether you're in Asia, whether you work in a Western country, I feel like that is still true. And what I mean by extrovert ideal is there's a picture in people's heads of what a leader looks like. And a
Mm,
leader is always somebody that is loud, that is actually standing in front of the room, they are doing the presentations, they are charismatic, and they seem to be able to deliver public speaking at the drop of a hat. That was true early in my career. Even today, when I'm working remotely, I still feel that is very true as well. And even though inside me, I always felt like I wanted to be a leader of my craft, that picture of what a leader looked like and the picture of me, they were never really congruent because I myself, I'm an introvert. I'm quieter by nature. Most of the designers that I coach, or engineers that I coach, or product managers, they are also quieter in nature as well because most of the time we're makers. Our happy place is really sitting down, pushing pixels, writing code, because that's what we love. That is our craft. That is what we do. But when it comes time to actually show our work and to talk about it with other people, work to this day, when you're working in a company, it is still a team sport. And I think the number one mistake that a lot of people like us make is to assume that our work is going to speak for itself. It's
mm.
like, I made this wonderful thing. I know it's awesome. I assume that everybody thinks it's awesome too. Look at it. Just look at it. Look at how awesome it is, right? But
Yeah.
then oftentimes what happens is people don't see the value. They don't understand how it's going to help them achieve the outcome that they want. And then that's the first thing, that they assume that the work will speak for itself. The second thing is, if it's a presentation or if it's an opportunity to talk about your work, chances are people are going to spend 99% of their time polishing the thing, right? Polishing the thing, making it better, whether it's a design, whether it's a report, whether it's code that you're writing. They're going to spend 99% of that time making sure that the thing that they're making is good. And then 5 minutes before the meeting or 5 minutes before the presentation is when they're thinking, gosh, I haven't really talked about or thought about how I'm going to tell that story. How am I going to communicate this so people actually understand its value and how great it is? Oftentimes, people spend, when they don't know how to do one thing, they always revert to the thing they actually know how to do the most. And a lot of the time in the work that I do, when it comes to recognition, when it comes to being a lot more visible in your organization, the advice I give people is this: if you want to be heard and you want to be seen, and especially if you are much more senior in your company, as the higher up you go, you have to start spending at least, if not more, but at least the same amount of time and energy into developing your communication and your people skills, as well as your technical skills, your craft, whether it's engineering, design, product management, marketing. You have to spend at least the same amount of effort, if not more, on those skills, so that other people can actually understand the value that you bring, and also how what you're doing can help them achieve their goals.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. Before my follow-up, because I have many, I just wanna, uh, give you a pat on the back here, Tim. Value packed from the start. Wow. Thank you, LinkedIn user, whoever you might be, but we appreciate you, dropping a nice comment, always helps. Um, so you mentioned, you know, spending at least half of your time perfecting those sort of communication and people skills. And also you mentioned like we kind of default to what we're good at. So it's like, okay, if I am a, let's just say a fairly senior designer, right? It's easier for me to kind of like not think too much about the work I do day to day, but think way more about like presentation and people skills, right? So that stuff already makes me nervous. So if I was to spend like 50% of my time, I wouldn't even know like, dude, where do I start? So it's like, what are some of these like little steps for folks who are in this position? Maybe it's like the
Mm,
work and the craft is almost easy because it's like the flow state, the thing you've been doing for 10 years plus. What are some of these little things that could maybe make a bigger impact, or just I could just kind of focus on as a starting point to get better at this like communication people stuff?
mhm. So I can think of two things that have come to mind. The first thing that you can focus on is to focus on your delivery, the
Mm,
actual public speaking, like I'm doing right now. To share with you a short story, um, so I was originally from Singapore and I moved to Australia. This was probably 15, 16 years ago. And I came here on a sponsored visa. And at the time, when I first came here, even though I've been in holiday on Australia and everything else, when I first came here and I started working here, people didn't seem to understand me.
mm,
And it's weird because I was from Singapore. English, if you don't know this, English is Singapore's first language. I speak English at home. I dream in English. So English comes, English is my language, right?
yeah.
But the weird thing was when I first arrived here and I went to these meetings, I was talking and delivering my findings. People just didn't seem to understand what I was saying. Like I
Mm,
would go into these rooms and they would look at me, and before I even say the word, their faces were almost as if like I don't even understand you. But it's weird because I haven't even said anything yet. It was weird. So over time, I started to realize that I even tried things like changing my accent, trying to speak a lot more like of an Aussie accent. I tried to learn phrases. The single most important thing that you can do if you want to get better at public speaking, even after this live stream, the single most important thing, the simplest thing that you can do is to speak slower. Don't
mm,
change, don't change what you want to say. Don't change how you want to say it. All you have to do is slow down, right? That's the number one thing. Improving a delivery, just slow down. And when you slow down, sometimes what happens with the people I coach is they get nervous. They see the confusion in other people's faces. That nervousness within them builds. And then as it builds, they start speaking faster to the point where they don't even know why they're saying the thing that they're saying. And then everything just goes downhill from there. But if you want to actually improve, and the one thing you can do today is to just simply speak slower. Take the time to pronounce every single word. And I think what you'll find is this, that when you actually speak slower, people are almost less tired to listen to you because they understand everything that you're saying. They don't have to think about what you're trying to say, they understand it the very first time. And there are a whole bunch of other things you can do to get better at public speaking, like practicing beforehand, having the right kind of script with you, and actually varying your speaking speed, but learning how to actually emphasize the key points, speaking with your hands. All
mm,
these things are extra really nice things that you can actually practice in terms of skills. But if I had to give you one thing, that would be simply to speak slower. And that's really about delivery.
mhm,
The second thing that you can do, a good place to start, is actually learn how to tell better stories. Now,
mm,
even when you Google and look up online, there are so many different kinds of storytelling frameworks. And the purpose of the story is to really help other people to see the world from your point of view, to your viewpoint. I think earlier on there was a question about how do you actually talk fearlessly and deliver meaningful information to people.
mhm,
If you want to do that, the simplest thing that you can do is to really understand what they care about first. The audience that you're speaking to first. What do they care about? Once you understand what they care about, you can then figure out how you can actually ladder up the things that you care about that will help them care about the thing that they already care about. Because if you start talking about this thing that they care about and how what you do can help them do what they want to do, they're going to be paying attention to you. They're going to be listening because you are speaking about something that they care about. So those two things, focus on your delivery, pick a storytelling framework that suits you so that you can tell better stories and get your message across in a way that people will actually listen to you.
Yeah, yeah. And I want to add something to this point of how to talk fearlessly and deliver meaningful information to the people. I think two things. One is that you actually know the subject you're talking about. That gives you like intrinsic confidence. Like, if you ask me about this thing, like, for example, if someone asks me about my life, I'm gonna tell them because I know about my life, right? It's very obvious, and I'm probably the only one that knows more than anybody else on the planet. And then two is like the belief in what you say, because I think not only is like knowing the information and the subject important, but the belief of the point that you're trying to make is true, is also very important, right? Because if you've ever tried to like sell something that you don't believe in or argue a point that you don't believe in, some people are very good at it, but that takes a lot of practice. But if you intrinsically believe that what you're proposing is the best option, then that sort of fearlessness will come out because you're like, you have a passion for it. You potentially speak with more oomph in your voice. So
Mm,
those are the kind of two things that I would say helps a fearless speaker, like
mm.
information, like actually knowing what you're talking about, and belief. Mhm. Okay. I want to sort of move on here with we spoke about recognition. Can we speak about promotion? Like I think recognition is one part, whereas like folks want to get recognized for their good work, but ultimately their goal is probably to get promoted, get a salary
Mhm,
bump, or get more responsibility and have more impact on the team. And one way
mm,
to do that is to get promoted. And
mhm.
again, I think your point of like extrovert ideals is very true, and potentially extrovert might seen as being these leaders, so they might get promoted first. So how would you sort of coach an introvert to think about promotion and all that stuff to do with that?
I think the one thing that actually holds people back is that they kind of expect and they're hoping that one day they will actually feel like they're ready, that they actually deserve. Like, I coach a lot of people who might be at the senior or mid level, they're wanting to get to the principal staff or maybe a head of level. And it's almost as if they one day hope that they wake up and magically think, oh, I'm ready. Like, I feel confident. There are probably 10 requirements that nobody told me to be each of these roles. And then I suddenly magically wake up and I'll feel that way. The truth is that most people are never ready. The truth is, in my experience, the higher up I go into these organizations, what I came to realize is that most people are actually making it up as they go. Because when you think about it, if you're working in a company that's pushing the boundaries, you're probably doing something that has never been done before. So there is no set playbook, there is no set path to success. People are really figuring it out as they go. And especially in this time in our industry, when AI seems to be changing everything as we know it, AI is changing design, aging AI is changing how engineering works. It's changing everything that we knew even 1, 2 years ago. Um, so how do you actually demonstrate that you can get promoted and actually deserve that new role that people don't even know, like what the benchmark is, what are those levels? um the irony here is this: people tend to think that in these moments like this, um, not so much an irony, I'll take that back. I'll just phrase it in a slightly different way. In times like this, when there are so many unknowns and when there are so many things that are in flux, it is actually the best time you have the most opportunity to actually excel and grow in your career, to actually level up. Because when you think about it, during peacetime, when everything is stable, you get a promotion after 1 year, 2 years, your salary bump will go up by 1.25%. That's what's happened during normal times, right? That's what happens during normal times. You work hard, you stay the course, you get promoted. But right now, when people don't even know if their job is going to exist in 1 year or 2 years' time, how do you get promoted in the place during a time when there are so many unknowns? And and from what I've seen, and is my view of the world, is that the future of our work belongs to the people who make. And as long as you are a maker and you can actually do things, bring them to life, and show them and demonstrate how the things that you've made can have the impact that you want or the company wants, I think there is no more powerful signal than that to actually get a promotion, to actually show that you're capable of actually doing those things. That no, you're not actually sitting back and waiting for permission for somebody else to say, okay, I allow you to do that. Go ahead. By right, that's a leadership or that's a lead's role. But no, go ahead, do the difficult thing, show people that you can do it. And then when you do that, one of two things can happen. You either prove yourself to be right, that you can do difficult things and you deserve that role, or you fail. And then it's a very humbling moment because you realize that maybe you don't have all the answers yet. And then you can go find out what are the things that you're missing. So when it
Mm.
comes back to how to get promoted, how to be given more responsibility, the key thing is have a stronger bias to action. In this day and age, there's never been an easier time to make, to ship stuff, to show people what you can do. Because all those skills that you didn't have before, chances are AI can do at least a half decent job of that. So make stuff, put it out there, and then see what happens.
Yeah, yeah. I love that. I love that. And as you were sort of saying that, I thought of why I preferred my startup experience to my corporate, where the corporate experience, I very much felt that people had their place, we had specific roles, and it was harder to step outside of kind of the function if you wanted to do something. But within startups, everyone is kind of like a headless chicken. They're like running around. Most people are unqualified for the roles that they're in, or the things, or if not the roles that they're in, the things that they're doing. But they are allowed to step outside because, like, there's um, not as many processes, not as many um, defined boxes, and you feel like you are also in that environment with everyone. So you just start doing stuff based on what you can do and what you think you can do, or what you want to experiment with. And there's
Mm,
sort of less guardrail. So it's very interesting in terms of like different environments, right? Where it's like, well, because this obviously makes a difference, right? Depending on which organization you are on. Like
mm,
getting a promotion is basically exhibiting behaviors that a potential role above you have, right? Where you're, where, like, what does a manager look like in this role, for example? So, yeah, that just sort of was in my head. So, yeah, it's
mm.
very, very interesting.
When you were talking about that, I was reminded by one of the people I was coaching, and this was their story. So 500-person organization, big company, one of two designers, and his other person, the other designer just got let go. One
Mm,
designer, 500-person company, the sole designer of the organization. He was barely keeping his head above water. He had so much work to do. He had so many meetings to attend. And oftentimes in those meetings, they'll be trying to make all these decisions that were against his better judgment. Sometimes he wasn't even invited to those meetings to actually give his viewpoint. So one of the things that we started working on was his visibility. How can we actually get people to hear and see, the wisdom of your ideas? So one of the tactics we tried was to actually record a short video of himself talking about his ideas.
Hmm.
And everybody in the company had access to Slack. And what he did was he started actually recording short videos of himself sharing his brilliant ideas. And magically, a lot of people, when I tell them this, they'll be like, yeah, that sounds like a really good idea. And then they'll say, I will go and do that. But they don't actually go and do that. They end up going back and they actually start typing out, this is my rational thinking. This is why my brilliant idea. Here are 250 wireframes of why I actually fleshed out my idea. And here am I showing you those. What he did was simpler, much simpler. Nobody has got time for that. People want movie trailers, not feature film length descriptions. And the important thing is that when you're trying to be a lot more visible, you need to be able to put your face. People need to see your face and hear your voice communicating to them your brilliant idea. And this was what the person I was coaching did. And lo and behold, for all the meetings that he has sat in, where there were louder people talking over him, taking up all that space, not even leaving 1 minute for him to put up his hand to say a word. All of a sudden, he was able to send a Slack message. And guess who saw that message? It was the CEO. And the CEO said, yes, that's the kind of ideas that we actually need. Put it on the roadmap. Put it on the roadmap.
So
And
cool.
everyone was like, did that just happen? Like, how did, who's this dude? He's like the only designer in the organization, recorded a short video showing them what his idea was. And the person that was the CEO in that 500 person organization saw it. And he said, put it on the roadmap. How much more impact and influence are you expecting to have as the only designer in a 500-person organization? How much more impact could you possibly have?
Mm.
And I think a lot of times, even today in this day and age, a lot of these decisions happen in meetings. That's how work gets done. But then you have to think about, especially as a quieter person, as an introvert, you have to think about what are the ways that you can do things that can help you have that impact while helping you stay, authentically who you are. And while recording short videos, it's a very difficult and uncomfortable thing at first. When you're doing it, nobody actually interrupts you.
Mhm.
Nobody sees the 10 back takes that I have recorded and deleted after. Nobody ever sees that ever again. They only see your best take. So find ways like this. There are plenty of other ways that you can actually use to be a lot more visible. But the key thing is this, to actually get people to hear and actually respond to your ideas. There's so many ways you can do it. And those ways don't have to always be in a meeting room with louder people.
Mhm, mhm. Yeah, I love that story. That's so cool for that designer to get his idea out there, get visibility, and actually have a meaningful impact on the product, right? Something on the roadmap. So switching gears here a bit, want to ask you, when interviewing, what was the most difficult thing for you, especially to land a super senior principal and leadership role position? Like, where do you struggle as an introvert in, I guess, interviews?
Hmm. Um, I think a lot of people actually struggle with learning how to sell themselves well,
Mm,
similar to reverting to what they know best, which is their craft. They always double down on the thing that makes them comfortable, on their core technical skills, and they're hoping that their work is so good that it's going to speak for itself.
mhm.
And that's a challenge, right? Because
Yeah.
nobody is ever going to know the thing that you made better than you. But what is the value of knowing that the thing is good when you cannot actually tell people why it's good or how this piece of work can actually help them. So, so that's the first thing, learning how to actually sell themselves well, to sell their work well, to demonstrate that impact. The second thing is realizing that, especially when you're reaching this leadership or principal or staff level, there is a there's a view of world, there's a reframe in how you should be thinking about your craft and how it actually adds value. And I think the best way that I can do this is to tell you to I'm gonna use an analogy. So did you watch the World Cup recently?
Yep.
Okay, cool, great. So you understand soccer, how it works. I'm gonna ask you three questions and I'm gonna ask you the same three questions again. Right?
Okay.
So in the sport of soccer, what is the role of the defender?
Um, to protect the ball from going in the goal.
Okay. In the sport of soccer or football, what is the role of the midfielder?
To basically push the ball up to connect the defense and the attacker.
All right. So in the role of soccer, what is the role of the striker, the
To
attacker?
put the ball in the opponent's net.
All right. So now I'm going to ask you the same three questions again, but I'm going to answer them.
Mm,
So in soccer, what is the role of the defender? The role of the defender is to win the game. The
mm,
role of the midfielder is to win the game. And the role of the attacker is to win the game. I think there is a shift that happens when you get to that principal and leadership role, right? So if you imagine, let's say a designer is a defender,
mm,
what people tend to do is they tend to go into these meetings and they start talking about why design is important, why defending is important. They start
mm,
talking about all these defensive tactics and all these strategies about how to defend really well. And this is the same thing that happens if you're a midfielder or attacker, right? They get
mm,
obsessed with their role, they get obsessed with their craft. But what I've noticed in my own experience and in other companies, especially as you get to the principal, staff, or leadership role, you know, being at that level, knowing your craft, that's table stakes. That's why they even brought you to this team.
mhm,
The goal now is to figure out how you can use what you know, your expertise, whether it's design, engineering, product management, marketing. How can you use what you know to help your team win the game?
mm,
And I think if you can keep this analogy in your mind, that if you want to get to that principal or leadership level, that this is the way you should view things, how design can help you win the game. That's the primary reframe or shift that you have to make to really start performing at that level. Because at that level, you're not really talking about the strategies of design, how you actually do user research, how do you do all these things. All those things are table stakes. Is why they invited you to the meeting in the first place. The key is trying to figure out how using what you know can actually help the company win the game. And that's, in a nutshell, how you can actually start performing at that principal, staff, or leadership level.
yeah, yeah. I really like those three questions. That makes so much sense. How important do you think getting a a super senior role? How important do you think having expertise in that domain? For example, if you're working on like med tech or ed tech, do you think it's like critical part of the role? Or do you think you could kind of like transition on a more general level where it's like, okay, I'm in B2B tech, I'm in B2C tech, I can probably move, horizontally.
Mm. I think it really depends on who is on your team and the people that you're trying to convince in order to get the thing that you're trying to share done,
Mm,
right? So if other people hold the decision rights, the key thing that you have to do is to figure out how you can actually frame, your way of thinking to help them achieve their goals. On a more technical level, if there were two skill levels, right, on scale of 1 to 10, let's say your technical skill is a 10 but your communication skill is a 3, chances are when you're actually sharing people all your amazing ideas, level 10 technical ideas, they're only going to perceive you as a three because, you know, they're
Mhm.
not, whatever you're saying, whatever you're selling is not landing. They don't understand you. But even if you had a technical skill of three, but you show up communicating like a eight or 10, people are starting to actually understand you. And maybe you might show up as a eight or 10. So while knowing your technical skills is great, having that ability is really good. It's probably why they hired you in the first place. But if nobody can really understand you, then I really start to wonder, if you're the only person that gets it, how will everybody else get to benefit from your wisdom?
Mm. Mm. Yeah. Yeah. So I mean, we spoke about sort of interviewing and getting recognition and getting promoted. I think, um, I mean, it's only logical that we kind of string those three together, right? Once you've got the job, once you've got the recognition, once
Mm.
you land that promotion, how do you become sort of indispensable or what you call unfireable? Like what taking to all that thing, like everything we just said, what's this? How do you define unfireable?
Well, to become unfireable is to become your company's most valuable employee,
MVP.
right? Yeah, it's to become your company's most valuable employee. And here's what I mean by that. If you find yourself in a company and you're working on a project, you want to be working on a project that is a sunrise project rather than a sunset project. A sunrise project is a project that is representative of the future of the company. It is
Mm,
where the company is going. A sunset project is legacy, right? It might be something that they're winding down. And this is true also if you find yourself in your current company and you are worried about layoffs. You can see it happening in other departments. You're worried that you'll be laid off next. If you find yourself working on a sunset project, it's not the end of the world, right? It's not the end of the world because maybe you are the only human being that knows how to fix this. I don't know, fix this one computer that your server is running off, and without you, that server goes down and everything goes down. I've seen this happen in companies where there's only one person that knows how to do this thing, and that's them.
mhm,
You're probably not going to get laid off, but chances are you're not going to get promoted too. A much better strategy is to actually start working on sunrise projects that represent the future of the company. And if your company is pushing the boundaries and is doing things that's never been done before, then a lot of times I find having that enthusiasm, showing that interest, showing that you're willing to give it a go, to experiment, to try new things, try hard things that have never been done before. I think a lot of times that enthusiasm and that actual personality, the thing that drive that you have, almost matters more than whether you actually have the ability or not to do the thing. Because if it truly is that difficult and no one's done it before, that appetite for failure is going to be a little bit higher than usual. So definitely, if you want to become a fireable, um, try and focus on much more sunrise projects to represent the future of the company. Um, and yes, you're doing those things, you're less likely to get laid off.
and the alternative path to become unfireable is if you are a solo founder. You can fire yourself, but I don't think you will because you are the only one responsible for yourself, which is kind of our path that we chose. Um, Hopefully, our bosses are kind to us. Uh, I guess there's one question I wanted to ask. As we're not getting any questions coming in, what is it like for you being an Asian in tech? Because this is always interesting. What has your experience been?
Mm. Um, it was challenging at first because even though when I first moved here to Australia, here's the thing, um, 1 in 5 Australians identify as Asian. They're from an Asian ethnically background.
Mm,
But even though that is the statistic, there were so many times when I first moved here and I was on my first job here, where I never really felt like I fit in. You know, in Australia, they love footy, which is rugby or a flavor of rugby. I didn't understand the rules. I don't understand cricket. When they went to socialize, I didn't understand the things that they were talking about.
mm,
And then, like what I was the story that I was sharing earlier about me speaking and people not understanding, all those things were true. For a long time, I never really felt like I fit in. And I
mm,
felt like maybe it wasn't, like maybe it was me. But then over time, I realized all these simple things, like how to make small talk, how to do public speaking well, all these little things that help people understand me and to approach these things with just a little bit of curiosity rather than feeling so self conscious that maybe it's me all the time, but really treating these moments as an opportunity to learn, to take an interest, to have interesting conversations. I found that when I did those things, um, doors started to open for me. Because I think like most of the rooms that were in, like with leaders around me, I looked around that room. Most of them didn't look like me.
mhm,
Most of them were loud. They were not like me. I was quieter in nature. Our skin colors were different. But if I could find, you know, a way, a piece of connection that can actually help me relate to them and them relate to me. And I think this is one of the things I learned is that people tend to undervalue small talk. I used to find it very uncomfortable. But it was actually my primary vehicle skill that I learned to actually help to make a connection with other people, even if it's people that I just met. And I think when you can find that point of connection, whether it's an interest in film, music, sports, focus on that lower hierarchy of Maslow's hierarchy of needs, the everyday things, the fact that you might have kids, the fact that you enjoy food, certain kinds of food. I think if you can find that connection and you can make that connection even with people that you just met, whether it's in the interview or people at work, I think you can start feeling as if you're part of something. You start to feel a bit more of that belonging. And you feel less of that strain of other people looking at you and thinking that you're different.
mm.
And finding that there's a way that you can learn how to work better together.
Yeah, yeah. I think my experience was like potentially the opposite. So I got started in tech when I was in Asia. So like obviously I look Asian, but I don't feel like 100% Asian. So everybody at work, well actually a large percentage are Vietnamese. The first company I was working for. But the CEO was Asian, but from America, Vietnamese as well. And I had been in these situations where I'm probably the only British feeling person in the room. So I also felt very different, right? Like I've worked in Vietnam, Mexico, Thailand, and majority I am the minority, right? I am like majority of the time I am the minority. So it felt like, yeah, I was definitely different, but
Mm,
it also made me try harder to connect with people, like figure out, as you were saying, like what are the commonalities, like what do people like here, and then I could make more effort because I feel like a bit of an outsider, but I never felt like that was potentially a bad thing. I just felt like it was a interesting thing and a more of a curious thing to me. Like it's like, what do people do when they're in Mexico? Like, what do you guys do? Like so it kind of breeded more curiosity and more sort of enthusiasm to connect and to learn about these types of people. Who they are, what the community is like here, design community in general. It's just like I think that was like a frame that I had that really helped because just having an interest with obviously the day-to-day things as well. As you said, small talk is so important. So it's like you could also mention things that like if you are, let's just say in a different environment and be like, guys, have you noticed that this happens? And you're like, you're genuinely curious and like why? And then for them it's like common knowledge, right? Like
Hmm.
it could be, you know, an etiquette thing or a situational thing, but I find that to be, yeah, um, different. And maybe it's sort of similar to your experience as well, where you're like, huh, I wonder why do they do this in Australia, but they don't do this in Singapore?
Hmm.
Which is, yeah, just curiosity. So, yeah,
It's
yeah,
a
very
very
interesting.
positive way of looking at things.
Mm,
What I found though with a lot of people is when they sense that disconnect, when they can't make
mm,
that connection,
yeah,
what you've done is very positive, right? Approach it with curiosity. This is something new.
mm,
The danger or the bad way that people deal with it is they tend to turn that negativity inwards and they
mm,
start saying, it is me, not them. I don't
mm,
fit in. And it's a funny thing with negative thoughts, right? Like negative thoughts always spiral downwards. Like positive thoughts, I mean, they don't really spiral upwards. It's like, oh, this amazing thing happened, great. But
mm,
oftentimes with negativity, it just spirals and spirals and spirals. And the danger is when it everyone actually internalizes it and they
yeah.
blame themselves. And I think that's when things can go the wrong way.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Yeah, it's weird. For me personally, it's like when it comes to work, it's all quite positive. Like different folks in the room, it's fine because we're there to do something. We're hired guns. You know, it's cool. Like we were just there to do that. It's more about the work than it is about interpersonal connection for me, right? But I do get very interested. But when it comes to like personal, like friend groups where you're just like hanging out and it's more like casual, there's not really an objective to the thing, then I feel like very, you know, then the spiral happens because I'm like, "Oh, I don't know what to talk about because there's no work that bonds us. There's no like
Mm,
so like that's how it works. So it's it's very interesting. Yeah. Huh.
yeah, people are interesting.
Yeah, right. Tim, I want to thank you for the conversation. I know it's you know, we didn't have that many questions come in, but I think it's just the timing, and obviously it's we want to fit you in at a time that works for you as well. And I'm sure this is going to get lots of replays. But before I let you go, dude, I want you to have some time to tell the audience that are going to be watching this maybe in a couple of hours or when they wake up if they're in the US, what you have going on. I'll give you some time. I will hide behind the background and I'll show it on screen now. All right.
Cool. So for those who are watching this replay, my name is Tim Yeo. I'm a career coach from the Quiet Achiever. If you missed this live recording, that's okay, because next week, in about 6 days' time, I'm going to be running a free live masterclass where I'm going to be talking about how I went from overlooked to actually landing 300K principal and leadership roles as an Asian that's working in tech. This will be on LinkedIn Live. It will also be on YouTube. Feel free to scan this QR code to get an invite in your calendar for the event. You don't want to miss it. If you're a designer, you're an engineer, you are a product manager, you're in marketing, if you feel like you have always been trying to get to that next senior level, whether you're an IC or your leadership level, but you never quite know why you can't get there, this masterclass is probably going to help you. So sign up and I'll see you next week.
And I will be sending out a bunch of links from Tim in the summary newsletter that we send out every Monday. So hopefully that's before when this masterclass happens, so folks can you know, click on the links and get all the information about what Tim is doing. Tim, what else do you have going on apart from this masterclass? Anything else that you're working on that could help the audience as well?
Yeah. So I'm a coach. If you guys want to check out my website, you can. And the other thing is, if you guys like books, I wrote a book called The Quiet Achiever, Tiny Habits to Have Impact at Work Without Pretending to Be an Extrovert. That's available on Amazon. You can buy it directly as an ebook. If you like audiobooks and you like the sound of my voice, I narrated the book as well.
So
But be
cool.
sure to check it out.
Amazing. And I think it's one of the best book covers I've seen. Can you just flash it again? I just think it perfectly like matches the name and the concept. It's just a chilled face with headphones reading a book. It's just like it just gives me the feels of what the Quiet Achiever is about. So kudos on the designer and you for working together on that to make that happen.
Yep, it
Just
wasn't
so
made
cool.
by AI.
Yeah. Awesome, Tim. Thank you so much. I think we dived into a lot of things that I think will help a lot of people feel, especially like feel like one, it's okay to have these feelings in the inside and not knowing what to do, but then actually having tactics to be like, okay, how do I get more visible? How do I stop, just thinking or living by extrovert ideals? And we touched on a lot of good things there. So thank you for your time, Tim. This was awesome. If you have things coming out, would love to have you back on to talk about that stuff. But for the audience out there, please go check out Tim's free masterclass. You said next week, July 28th, 26th?
28 for Australia, 27 for the US. And if I may, I wanted to leave people who are watching with one small piece of parting advice.
Great.
If you find that you are struggling at work right now, if you're worried about layoffs, if you don't know where your job is going, I think the key thing you have to realize is that optionality is power. Having options, even if you're happy in your current role, um, to know that there is something else that you can do to actually put food on the table, to know that your skills are wanted, if not where you are right now, maybe it's elsewhere. The very important thing you have to know is that being able, the best time to actually look for a role is when you don't need one. And the next best time is now. Doesn't mean that if you're interviewing and looking for your next role and you're networking, doesn't mean that you have to take those opportunities as they come. But the fact that you have other options, things that you know you could move into if this current role that you're doing disappears, I think that fact is actually going to help you sleep better at night and to help you know that your family doesn't have to starve, that you can put food on the table, which are all very important things. So even if you're happy in your role right now, it actually pays to actually figure out, what else is out there so that you can sleep better at night and to know that you have options.
Yeah, I love that. Again, thank you, Tim. This was awesome, and I love the advice. Yeah, brilliant, brilliant, brilliant. Okay, so I again thank you for coming on. I'll take you off stage and I'll do the roundups and the debrief and everything. All right. Thanks, Tim. All right. Again, guys, Tim's free masterclass, which will be on YouTube and LinkedIn, is via this link. So if you're watching this replay and you like what Tim's about and you're a quiet achiever yourself, it's on the 28th in Australia, 27th everywhere else in the world, given the time zone. But yeah, just head to that QR code or follow Tim on LinkedIn. I'm sure he'll be announcing it there as well. And in the survey, some of you guys mentioned that you would appreciate a debrief. I don't know how many people are watching now. I can't really see the numbers. Um, but let me just start with the debrief of what actually going on what Tim said of the best time to look for a role is when you don't need one. So, quick story. I used to do this all the time, like even like throughout when I had jobs I really, really liked. So my excuse was to one, keep my sort of interview skills and talk about the things I do at work sharp, right? So like I would love to, talk to other designers about it, talk to whoever was interviewing me about it. Like I was just generally wanted to talk about it, and the interview is the best place to do it. Sometimes at networking events, you don't want to go on and on and on. So that was one thing. The second thing was I wanted, because I was in a environment of like a smaller sort of tech environment. I was in Ho Chi Minh City, Vietnam. I actually wanted to see what other companies were doing. in terms of their design function and like what can I potentially take from what they're doing or get inspired by it and then implement it into my own team. So the best way to do that is to kind of interview, right? They're gonna tell you what their company's doing, how exciting it is, and what their design team are doing, and these kind of processes. And you get to kind of like trade knowledge. And sometimes in like even networking events, or there's just no opportunity to sort of deep dive for an hour or two around someone's work life, and then you're really trying to exchange knowledge on sort of a level scale. So that's what I did a lot. And again, and then for the third thing, it's just again the opportunities, like what is interesting, and and then again you get to meet all these people. And I don't think I actually took like 90% of the jobs. I would probably do it every 3 or 4 months. Every 3 or 4 months, I would do a bunch of like interviews with some companies, and then and then not do any, and not and say nothing, and just be like, oh yeah, that was a great conversation, cool. Some of them had like offers, but I eventually said no anyway because I liked what I do. But it can never hurt, and it also gives you, to what we were speaking about earlier, just visibility in the community and the design sort of field at large. So yeah, and if you and again, you can treat it as practice, right? The reps of you talking about what you're doing, and it's live. It's kind of like, if you haven't been on a date in like 10 years and you go on your first date, you're going to be so out of practice. Yeah, it's just going to be horrible. But if you've been on like a date every week for the past 6 months, you're going to be killing it. Like the first date, you're going to be knowing exactly what you're going to say. You're going to know what works, what doesn't work. So it's just, um, it doesn't have to be a numbers game, but if you need that practice, because of course you're not going to get your dream role the first time you interview, right? You can probably get it on your 50th time. So it's like, well, what's a better way to practice, right? Anyway, rant over. But that's the debrief, that's the story. But anyway, if you wanted to suggest things that we can do in the future to make this show better for you, or more useful to you, you can go to rectangles.fm/survey. We've had about 200 respondents so far. But yeah, scan that QR code somewhere on your screen, either down here if you're watching on Instagram, or to the right. But I want to again thank Optimal for sponsoring this episode. Most designers just don't have time to review dozens of interviews, but that doesn't mean that we don't need the insights, the findings. And here's how Optimal Intelligence can help you make that smoother. You can eliminate repetitive, time intensive tasks, analyze the data with recordings, transcripts, or even just ask AI questions like we're kind of used to now, see exact quotes, responses, and the clips behind each insight, so you know what's driving key findings. More and more teams are leveraging AI in research. And if research has been your bottleneck, especially if you're in, a team of one, or in a tiny team with like resource constraints, then you should give Optimal a try. Again, it's completely free for the audience watching now. Just scan that QR code, and you can try Optimal for free and figure out if this helps you increase your research velocity. So that's it from me. Of course, a couple of other things before I let you go, which is the next Rectangle Live is August the 5th. Okay, there's I have not updated it because that's just the way life works, but it's about how designers launch products. We're speaking about, as a designer, how you gonna launch launching as a designer, like what should you be caring about, the mistakes that our guest has made and what he'll never repeat again. I can also share some. I've launched a bunch of stuff over the years, and what 100% spending time on marketing actually looks like as a designer. So our guest has spent a decade designing previously at Etsy, runs his own design studio, and has also recently launched his app. So he's thinking about this and has been through the ropes of like launching products and stuff like that. So to listen to that and more conversations like this, you can head to rectangles.fm or scan that QR code. Again, you can drop your email in if you want the takeaway email from this session. Whew, I think that's the sign off. So until next time, let me get my clapper. I'll see you again. Bye.